Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2021-22 season. My name is Dan and welcome to a Game Week 34 strategy stream. Basically, a video stream, I suppose, where I just wanted to talk about all the stuff I haven't really had time to talk about in some of the other videos this week. I would have liked to do a bit more. I would have liked to make another video, but I am at this big Fantasy Football Fest event tomorrow, which means I've had to do most of the work for tomorrow's video today, which means I haven't really had time to make another video today. Plus, I've been doing all kinds of other sorts of stuff for various different bits and bobs. I'm a busy guy, what can I say? So, guys, yeah, first of all, last Monday, so Monday just gone, unfortunately, I made a wildcard video. But unfortunately, what I think I failed to realise is that a lot of the people who wanted a wildcard video did actually want a wild card with the intent of bench boosting, which is something I hadn't really thought about when making that video. And I kind of made a very generic wild card that I thought would be very good to suit all purposes, when actually what people really wanted was to see a wild card with the idea of using a bench boost in ideally game week 36, maybe game week 37, and that's what you guys wanted, and I failed to see that, to be fair. So I do apologise to you guys, because I feel like that video maybe was not as useful as it could have been had I have kind of realised that the whole point of wildcarding is because you want a bench boost. So apologies, guys, there. Hopefully we'll be able to try and cover some of that stuff today. And also I want to talk a little bit about Chelsea players as well, and who the best Chelsea players are, and what Chelsea players I prefer, and what the kind of pros and cons are to each of them. So we're going to be talking chip strategy, wildcard, Chelsea assets, and then finally we'll answer a few questions at the end of the stream as well, I think. And I think that sounds like a pretty good plan. So if that sounds good with you, that sounds good with me. So let's get on with it, guys. Let's get on with it. I know there's a few of you here. Thank you so much for joining me on this sunny Thursday afternoon, or at least it is sunny in the UK today, which is quite nice. But yeah, so we'll start you off, guys, with this image, this graphic that I've got in front of you. I've updated once again my fixture graphic to reflect the latest fixtures. We're now going from game week 34 to 38. So yeah, this is what we got. We have got obviously a few games that are not confirmed, but aside from that, we're pretty much locked in now. This is pretty much as accurate as it possibly can be, which is pretty good, actually. Pretty good. It's kind of what we want. Actually, is my webcam back to front? Is my webcam backwards? I think it is. Hang on. Sorry, this is really bothering me. How do I change? How do I flip it? My webcam is flipped. That is so annoying. Here we go. Is that better? That looks right. I think that's right. Yeah, that's better. I don't know. I'll sort this out later. But anyway, I'm kind of looking at like the image, and I'm not. Forget it. Right, anyway, so we're pretty much there in terms of what we're kind of looking for. This is exactly what we want, really. My webcam wasn't flipped. I think it was right the first time. I look weird now. All right, let's flip myself back. But let me talk as we're doing this. Get so easily distracted. Yeah, so we've got everything confirmed other than two things. Well, I say two things. It's one thing, really. And the one thing is, where is the Man City versus Wolves fixture going to be put in? We don't know for sure yet. There's different predictions flying around. Hopefully, guys, we should be getting this announcement very soon. I'm hoping that we get it before the deadline, hopefully by tomorrow. I don't think there's any massive need, but I certainly think it could be announced as early as tomorrow. I hope, anyway. So, yeah, we don't know for sure when that's going to be. Different people are predicting it in different places. I think it's going to go into game week 36. So I think Man City and Wolves will double in 36. But there is a possibility that they double in 37 instead. A few people were saying, are some teams blanking in such and such position? Yeah, obviously the Liverpool versus Southampton game, for example, that's just going to be moved to the midweek slot. There's nothing too strange going on there. So that's just going to be moved to the midweek slot. I know the FPL website and the Premier League haven't officially rescheduled that one, but it's pretty cut and dry. That it's just all that needs to happen with that game is it's just going to get delayed a couple of days, and will fit in perfectly in the game week 37 midweek slot, giving Liverpool versus Southampton that game in 37. So yes, this is as accurate as I can get in terms of what the fixture schedule is going to look like. The predictions we've made so far over the last few weeks and trying to get it down to this is pretty accurate. This is pretty much exactly what I thought it would be, which is pretty good. So we're ahead of the game. I would predict that City Wolves goes into 36, but it might go into 37, and that's just something to be aware of. But ultimately, I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. Unless you're free hitting, that will be the only thing that will kind of mean that this will impact you. Because let's be real, even if City, for example, have a single game week in 36, you're still going to play all their single game week players. No, it's not like you're going to be like, oh, I don't want to play City players now that they've got a single game week. You're still going to play a Cancelo, even in a single game week against Newcastle. You're still going to play a Foden or whoever you have. So that's not really going to matter too much. Same if it's in 37. It's not like if they double in 36, but not in 37. It's not like in 37 you're going to say, oh, I'm going to bench my City players now. It's just not going to happen. You're going to play them either way. The only impact will be if you're free hitting and you've got to try and plan that free hit. But because you can use your free hit fairly reactionarily, you're going to be in a fine position. You'll be able to just deal with it. Savio says, so definitely no doubles in 35. I don't think there's going to be any doubles in 35. No, just because those are the midweek slots there are going to be the European slots. There's nowhere, there's no fixture that can really go in anywhere. The only fixture that is yet to be scheduled is that Man City versus Wolves game. I mean, technically Liverpool Southampton hasn't, but we know where it's going to go. And Man City, because they're still in the Champions League, then they physically can't play in the midweek slots in 34 or 35. So it is going to be in 36 or 37. We're not going to get any more double game weeks in any of the other game weeks. That is the last piece of the jigsaw puzzle. So there we go. I think I've spoken about that quite enough. That is the lay of the land. That's what we're dealing with, guys. And now we are hopefully going to try and build a wild card and stuff like that out of that. But I think what we'll do first is, because I think more of you guys will be interested in Chelsea stuff than wild card and chip strategy stuff. So I think we'll start off with the Chelsea stuff because obviously the first column of this image, you will see that Chelsea have a lovely double game week against West Ham and Manchester United. And Manchester United have a not so lovely double against Arsenal and Chelsea. That's going to be an interesting double for Man United. Pretty season defining. But yeah, I first of all, I don't think we consider Manchester United double game week assets at all. I would not be going near any of them. Manchester United are just not doing well enough at the moment, and the double that they have is just, it's not that good. It really is kind of bad, really. It's going to be tough. So when a Manchester United team are this out of form, this low on confidence, just playing this badly, and they come up with two very motivated teams, it's not going to go well. And then as soon as you bring in Manchester United players, because they have that game week 37 blank, you kind of know that you're going to have to transfer them out again. So if you bring in a Manchester United player, that's not costing you one transfer, that's costing you two transfers, because you've got to take them back out again. People still saying Liverpool blanking in 37. No, that's not going to happen. So yeah, just honestly, guys, just assume what you see on screen is correct. Other than, the Man City versus Wolves fixture. That's the only missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle. But yeah, anyway, Manchester United players, they will cost you two transfers, because if you bring them in this week, you're going to have to remove them again in game week 37. It's going to cost you two transfers. It is not worth it. Do not go there. Do not go there. Especially as, remember, guys, we only have 5 transfers left between now and the end of the season. That's a pretty scary thought. It's a pretty scary thought. 5 free transfers. If you want to make more than 5 transfers, but 5 changes to your team between now and the end of the season, is going to cost you hits. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's just a warning, I suppose, isn't it? But Chelsea, on the other hand, West Ham at home, Manchester United away. Now, I think we already know that Manchester United are kind of not as worrying as a team, as an opponent, as they once were. I don't think we need to beat around the bush about that too much. Okay, but people in the chat are still saying check the FPL website. I know. The purpose of YouTube channels like this is to get ahead of the FPL website and figure out what's going on before they even know it, before they're even publicising it. So just trust me. Ignore the FPL website's fixtures. What you see on screen is going to be what the fixture schedule is. I'm not going to repeat that one. I know the FPL website hasn't put the Liverpool-Southampton game in game week 37 yet, but they are going to. It's the only place it can go. It's going in there. Don't worry. Anyway. back to Chelsea. So Manchester United, they're not too much of a tough opponent. So I think at this point we're fine targeting Manchester United, aren't we? We don't have a problem with that. We don't see Manchester United as in, you don't avoid picking your assets just because they're playing Manchester United. That's a thing of the past. So we're happy for our Chelsea players to play that. West Ham, on the other hand, is kind of interesting. I know, maybe kind of because of their place in the table, I think people do assume that West Ham are a pretty good team, although which they are, in fairness. But West Ham, particularly defensively, they are kind of sitting at about mid-table in terms of how good their defence is, how good their defence are performing, how many chances they're kind of conceding, how many XG they're conceding, etc., etc., etc. So West Ham, not a bad fixture, actually. It's certainly not one of the tougher ones. We would have perhaps said it was a tougher fixture earlier on in the season, but at the moment, I think that's a fairly average fixture. I think Manchester United, for all their flaws, are probably about an average fixture as well. Not amazing, not terrible. So 2 average fixtures, and for a team like Chelsea to have 2 average fixtures, that's a pretty good. That's a big old dub. So we do want to go for Chelsea players, and honestly, guys, if you're making transfers this week, I don't know how else to put it, but you just gotta pick Chelsea players. The only players who I would consider bringing in this game week that aren't Chelsea players are kind of Salah. If you don't have Salah for some reason, Salah is a priority transfer move. And the other player is probably Cancelo. So Cancelo is another priority transfer move as well that I think you guys should be trying to get in. But if you've got Salah, if you've got Cancelo, after that, I think we need to give our entire undivided focus to buying in some Chelsea assets. There's got this nice double game week, West Ham and Manchester United. Then we've got Everton away, another really good fixture. Another double game week in 36 against Wolves and Leeds. Although I should warn you guys, the Leeds game, the Leeds away game for Chelsea is only a couple of days before the FA Cup final. So I can actually see Chelsea rotating a little bit in that Leeds game in game week 36. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the rotation was quite heavy, particularly if they can win a couple of their games beforehand and kind of solidify the 3rd place, can solidify the top 4 position. If that was to happen, Chelsea play really well for the next few game weeks. That Leeds game, there's probably going to be rotation in there. So just be aware of that. Even though it is a double game week for Chelsea in 36, I don't know if we can fully count it as a double game week. And then we've got Leicester after that at home. And finally finishing off the season with Watford at home, which is arguably one of the best fixtures you can have. Watford at home. That's a phenomenal fixture. So looking really good. Chelsea arguably have the best fixtures for the rest of the season, and they've got a double. Right now, we want to be focusing our transfers really on those Chelsea assets. Now, the big question is who? Who do we go for, guys? Well, I'm sure they won't mind. I think if we go on, I know you can't see my screen right now, but I'm just going to set it up ready. But I think we go on Fantasy Football Hub and kind of have a look through some of their stats. I'm sure they won't mind me advertising their wonderful website. So let's do that, and let me just get everything in order for you guys so you can see what I see. Let's go right. Okay, right. Let's reveal. Get rid of that screenshot. So I've got in front of us, guys, a table of some stats from Chelsea assets as we kind of try and weigh up who is the best one to go for. This is stats from game week 28 to 33, so over the last 5 or 6 game weeks kind of thing. And we can kind of see, and I've done it per what have I done it? Per appearance? Yeah, per appearance, so not per start, but per appearance. How many, this is in order of the expected points a player will get per appearance. Of course, you can't guarantee which players will get appearances, which players will start, and which players won't start. But nonetheless, this is what we've gone for now as a base to try and start have a look and start narrowing it down what kind of players we are looking for. So you can see in terms of expected points since game week 28, Kai Havertz is number 1. And he's number 1 because he takes 2.5 shots per game, 2.33 shots per game in the box. He gets 1.17 big chances per game. And now if you count the fact that, you take note of the fact that last night he only played 20, 30 minutes at the end of the game. So this is that 30 minutes is included in this as well as in an appearance. But yeah, you can see that he's getting over 1 big chance per game, 0.6 expected goals per game, which is really good. That basically means that every 3 games, he's expected to score 2 goals. That's big. That's pretty big. And also, there's a little bit of assist potential there. 1.17 key passes per game, 0.15 expected assists per game. He's actually been out overperforming his expected goals as well, so he's been quite clinical, which is quite nice. We know that Havertz is kind of the primary goal-scoring threat for Chelsea at the moment, which is all very good. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Well, that means you're saying that Havertz is the best option. What about Mason Mount? Well, Mason Mount is not far behind. If we're completely honest, he is not too far behind. So he's again taking just over 2 shots per game. He is getting 0.27 expected goals per game, which is a lot less, but he is overperforming that by quite a significant degree, and he is being a little bit more creative as well to make up for that. But the good thing about Mount is that he's a little bit more nailed on for minutes. We kind of saw that last night. Mount playing, Havertz could actually afford to be dropped, which is interesting. They gave Lukaku a go, but if we're honest, guys, and I know we're kind of saying, well, Mount is the more nailed on player than Havertz, but at the same time, you do have to wonder if, because of Lukaku's performances, maybe Havertz just has to play. Maybe he just has to play. But we are seeing here, guys, very clearly, that Mount and Havertz are the 2 best midfielders to go for Chelsea, and 2 of arguably the best options. So if you can have any Chelsea player whatsoever, I would say make it one of Havertz or Mount. Which one you go for is kind of up to you. The stats suggest Havertz is the better option. In reality, if we're looking for nailedness of players, perhaps Mason Mount is the one to go for if you're a little bit more worried about minutes. And also, I should say, guys, Mason Mount is going to be the popular choice because of FPL points. I mean, it happens all the time. If we go to... I'll just go to Chelsea players and then we just sort by form, maybe. People, particularly players who don't watch FPL content, who aren't like super FPL nerds like myself and maybe some of you guys, they will default to Mount, because if you go on order it by form on the Chelsea team, well, right here you can see Mount is top of the form table, which suggests that Mount is the better player. People's memories are also usually fairly short, and people will remember the last couple of game weeks. In the last couple of game weeks, we've seen an assist from Mount there. We've seen 2 goals and an assist against Southampton in this demolition, 19-pointer there, and a 13-pointer there a couple of weeks ago as well. So these kind of things will stick out in the memory of FPL managers, and they'll think, wow, look at all those points that Mount is getting. Amazing, have to get him. And kind of forgetting that Havertz has actually been ticking along quite nicely. He didn't start last game. He got yanked at half-time in the game before to kind of rest him for the Real Madrid game. So that is definitely something to consider. He's well rested and stuff like that. Even though he did start, they were able to rest him at half-time because they were beating Southampton by so many goals. But before that, obviously the Brentford game was a bit of an anomaly, but before that, it was a goal a game. He scored in that Newcastle game, scored in that Norwich game, and got an assist. 2 goals in the Burnley game, and he actually got some nice scores when he was playing. But of course, these numbers here will worry people, and these numbers here will fill people with joy. The minutes played, I mean. They will fill people with joy, and people will kind of be a little bit worried about Havertz's minutes. Am I worried about Havertz's minutes? I'm more worried about his minutes than Mount's minutes, but I'm pretty happy with him. I wouldn't let it put you off too much, but Mount is certainly a safer pick in terms of minutes. But at the end of the day, when we go back to the underlying stats, and even over this exact period of time we were just speaking about, even though Mason Mount has just about outscored Havertz, the underlying stats and the fact that Mount has played more minutes kind of suggests that Havertz is the better pick. If Havertz is playing as many minutes as Mount, and I'm not going to say that's going to happen, then Havertz is the better pick, but he's probably not going to play as many minutes. Don't know. So they're both good. Mount is definitely going to be the popular pick. Mount is definitely the safe pick, but if you're feeling a little bit spicy, and I don't think you have to be too spicy. I don't think you have to be mega spicy to go to Havertz. It's just like it's like a very mild spice. If you fancy a mild spice, I would consider going for Havertz over Mount. Of course, Mount has the advantage of being a little bit cheaper than Havertz as well. So there's that. But yeah, there's a couple of different factors there. What do you value in a player? How safe do you want to be? Are you willing to spend a little bit of extra money? Kai Havertz, incidentally, someone mentioned it in the chat and they're absolutely correct. Kai Havertz, when Jorginho is not on the pitch, Kai Havertz is going to be on penalties for Chelsea. So is that something that you value as well? That's kind of what you've got to decide. I'm not going to tell you one is better than the other. I think that wouldn't be very sensible of me to say that. It could go either way. It really could go either way. But these two are the best picks, in my opinion. Which one you go for is kind of up to you, and it's based on what you value as an FPL manager. So hopefully, guys, that helps. Hopefully that helps you in your decision-making process. And someone in the chat said, would you captain Havertz or Salah? And I will say that, you know, if you've got a Mount or a Havertz, you've managed to get a Mount or a Havertz in your team, I would definitely consider captaining them over Salah. Would I actually go ahead and captain them over Salah? I think I would. Yeah, if I had a Mount or a Havertz, I would probably captain them this game week ahead of Salah. I think I would. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I think I would genuinely lean towards a Chelsea player, particularly Havertz, because he's just had the rest. So in this game week in particular, then I think Havertz would be a good captain shout. But guys, yeah, I know there's a few people already doubting, is Havertz actually on pens? Mount has taken penalties before, etc., etc., etc. Thomas Tuchel has quite literally said very, very recently, quite literally, that if Jorginho is not on the pitch, then Havertz is taking pens. We've got a lot of doubt in Thomas's in the chat, guys. Honestly, guys, I would not say these kind of things if they weren't true. So, yeah, Havertz. Tuchel has already said that Havertz is going to be on penalties. We saw Havertz take a penalty in was it the Club World Cup? He took a penalty there. And I think Mount, because did he miss his last one or missed a couple recently? They've kind of given the role of penalty taking to Havertz, only if Jorginho is not on the pitch, which in fairness, Jorginho has not been playing too much recently, has he? Let's kind of find Jorginho. Yeah, I know he's not played the last 3 Premier League games. So there you go. Food for thought. It could be that Havertz is the Chelsea penalty taker. If you want a source, just go Google it. Just go Google it. I mean, I'm not going to find the article or the interview right now. If you don't believe me, you can go find it out yourself. Okay, guys. So we've spoken about Havertz. We've spoken about Mount. We like the look of both of them. Some people in the chat are saying, if you can get both, amazing. I would be very, very jealous of you, particularly wildcarders. If you're on a wildcard and you can get both Havertz and Mount, that is the one. Right, guys. Let's look at another player here, because there is another player who is tucked in very, very cheekily between Havertz and Mount, and his name is Mr. Marcos Alonso. So, Marcos Alonso, obviously slightly smaller data set because we're going by 3 appearances. If we look at the recent appearances by Alonso, he has only kind of just come back into the team after a bit of a... wait, hang on, can we find him? Where is he? Alonso. Where are you? Am I going blind? Oh, he's right there, number 3. Yeah, he kind of was out of the team and he's in the team, but he's been playing pretty well recently. He's been doing not so bad. We saw him get a big haul against Southampton. Chelsea are a team. I know they've conceded a few goals recently, but they're definitely a team that can keep clean sheets. But that's not what you're buying a player like Alonso for. You're buying him for his upside, and his upside is really huge. So let's go back to this page, guys, and you can kind of see that in terms of literally the striker-esque stats here, it's really quite mad. 3.33 shots per game. He's a defender taking more shots than Havertz, more shots than Mount, more shots than Werner. Absolutely crazy. 3 per game in the box. Crazy. A decent amount of XG there as well. 0.34 XG per game as well. And a decent amount of creativity as well. Really nice there. 2.33 key passes per game, 0.67 big chances created per game, and 0.45 expected assists per game. That's pretty mad. Now, the data set is pretty small because it's 3 games, and one of those games was the Southampton game. So like that, it's probably inflating Alonso a little bit, but it does make for very good reading. And what I will say about Alonso as well is that there's not really very much competition for his place right now. I don't really know who's going to come in and play left wing back, because it does seem like it is going to be a back 5 or a back 3 depending on how you look at it. In that Chelsea formation at the moment, I think their 4 at the back experiments is a thing of the past now. Not really worked, I don't think so. They're going to go back to a back 5. Alonso's going to be the left wing back. Maybe Saul goes in there. I don't know. Savio says, Danny, you're not talking about James on purpose. No, I'm leading to it. Don't worry, we'll be talking about James. So, Alonso looking good, looking reasonably nailed. No one's completely nailed. No one is completely nailed in a Chelsea team. You've got to know that. No one's completely nailed. But we know what he can do. We know what Alonso can do. He can produce those massive scores. Game week 1, 15 points. Game week 5, 10 points. Guys, what else have we got here? 13 points against Southampton. Some of you guys who have been playing FPL for a little bit longer will remember a plethora of 15-point plus hauls for Alonso, because that's what he does. He is just so attacking. He takes so many shots. He is basically a striker. He plays basically as a striker, despite the fact that he is listed as a defender. So when he is playing, we want to have him. He is just a good pick when he's playing. And people will say, he's a bit of a troll player. Warzoo in the chat says, Sarr could play left back. Yes, he could. But as you rightly say, it was a pretty poor performance against Arsenal yesterday. And also, not really sure Sarr is suitable for a left wing back position. If Chelsea play 4 at the back, Sarr could technically play left back. That's not even looking likely. In a 5 at the back formation, it's kind of Alonso or Saul or Pulisic. It's gonna be basically Alonso. So Alonso, by the way, 5.5 million. You know who's a little bit more expensive? 6.3 million. Reece James, a player who, look, this is since game week 19. He's only not blanked once. And fair enough, a lot of that has been down to injury. But also a lot of trolley rotations. Arsenal scoring 4 goals, giving him 0 points there. Unfortunately for Reece James, it does seem like his fitness is an issue. And that's kind of been backed up by comments made by Thomas Tuchel earlier on in the week, saying that Reece James, he's I'm paraphrasing here, but basically, he's not fit enough to play at right wing back twice a week. He's just not fit enough. So if they want to get more games out of him, he's going to have to be playing at right centre back, which is exactly what we saw against Arsenal. And we're going to see a little bit more, I think. James playing at right centre back rather than right wing back. He's a pretty decent right centre back, to be fair, but he's not going to be getting those. He's not going to be taking all of those shots that we want him to take. He's not going to be putting in all of those crosses and passes that we want him to do. He's not going to be making as many of those actions that make James so valuable, that makes James a 6.3 million defender, that makes James a player that scores 18 pointers, that scores 12 pointers, 21 pointers, 13 pointers. The thing that makes another 18 there as well. The thing that makes James that player is him playing at right wing back. And if he's playing at right centre-back to conserve fitness and get more game time out of him, is he worth the 6.3 million? When you can just get Rudiger for 6.2 million playing pretty much the same position. More nailed on. Do you kind of get where I'm coming from? I don't know if it's actually going to be available this weekend or not, but you know what I mean. I wonder if Rudiger is just as good, if not better, than Reece James at this point. But more to the point, is Alonso better than them both? Is he better than both? Because that is where everything keeps coming back to. Joe Collins says James played wing back second half last night. He did, but that was only because Chelsea were chasing the game. At which point he's already conceded a couple of goals and arguably is becoming a bit of a troll player already by that point. Rudiger didn't start last match. No, he didn't. That was because of an injury that he picked up a couple of days before against Crystal Palace in the FA Cup. But I don't think the injury was too bad. So I'm kind of thinking he might be back. I think that's one to keep an eye on for sure, guys. But particularly those of you guys who are saying, oh, I'm going to take out Rudiger. Okay, Ethan says in the chat, Rudiger is out for the weekend. Tuchel said, okay, I've not seen that, but if that's true, then that's true. And then Rudiger is just not available for this weekend. Okay, well, then Rudiger's got to go. Rudiger is not an option. But if he was an option, I think I would prefer him to Reece James, sorry. But going back to what I was saying, Rudiger, not an option. Okay, not an option right now. Reece James, yeah, not bad, particularly if he can get more minutes, but he's not going to be playing in that position to get him all of the attacking returns and will still be rotated occasionally. Is Alonso just the one? Because Alonso's not going to be competing for a place with Azpilicueta, really. Alonso is not going to be playing, games in right centre-back and is arguably just as rotation risk as Reece James, and he's cheaper. Everything, in terms of Chelsea defenders, everything is just pointing me towards Marcos Alonso. So, there you go, guys. If you're asking me which Chelsea defender is the best one, the one to go for, I have no answer other than Marcos Alonso. That is my answer. He is my preferred Chelsea defender to go for right now. But if you want to go for Reece James, then I'm not totally against it. But Alonso looks pretty good. Looks pretty good to go for. But yeah, we are already developing, some preferred players. Havertz, Mount, Alonso, Reece James. Those are the 4 players we spoke about so far. Those are 4 out of the 5 Chelsea players I think we should be talking about. Because there is one more. I've seen you guys talking about him in the chat already. Let's just be out with it. It's Timo Werner, right? So let's have a look at Timo Werner's stats. 2.5 shots per appearance, 2.17 in the box, 0.83 big chances per game, which is pretty good. It's better than Mason Mount, although not quite as good as Kai Havertz. 0.42 expected goals per game, which is second only to Havertz again. 0.5 actual goals per game, so he's still finishing a little bit above his XG, but not by a huge amount. In terms of creativity, not looking so good. Pretty meh creativity. So not really passing too much. But he is getting chances. He is taking shots. He's looking pretty good. He's taking, taking technically as many shots as Havertz. Not quite as good as high quality chances, but maybe just because he's playing slightly more wide than Havertz is, and kind of coming from outside from the wing positions. He's looking pretty good, actually. Pretty good. Not amazing, but pretty good. So I do want to make that comparison immediately because I do think it is important. Havertz, I think, is a better FPL asset than Werner. Havertz has got slightly better underlying stats, but the most important thing is that Havertz gets 1 point extra for goals scored, and he gets 1 point extra every time Chelsea keep a clean sheet. So, all in all, do you really want to be... and he's cheaper as well. That's another factor. 0.7 million cheaper. So if his stats are better, he's cheaper, he gets more points for doing the same thing, then surely in a direct battle between Havertz and Werner, the answer is Havertz. That's not to say Werner is a bad pick. Someone in the chat says Mount or Werner. Mount or Werner, I don't know. Maybe that's there's more of a argument to be had there, but they're slightly different. I suppose Werner's probably... I don't know. See, Mount is even cheaper and has almost as good stats as Werner and gets more points for doing the same thing. So, again, Mount is probably... like I say, my 2 favourite Chelsea assets are Havertz and Mount. If I'm taking 2, I'm taking Havertz and Mount. And if I'm taking 3, I'm taking Havertz, Mount and Alonso. But that's not to say that Werner is a bad pick, because he isn't. He isn't as good as Havertz and Mount, but he is still good. And he's a forward. And that's the major advantage you have with going for Werner, is that if you just cannot figure out what forward you want to go for. You don't want to go for Harry Kane because you want Heung-min Son, for example. then in that case, maybe you go for Werner, fill up that forward slot. He is playing well. He is looking like confident, which is really important. I think, he's needed that confidence for a while. We know that he's a good player. We've seen that in We've seen that in the Bundesliga. Like, he is a good player. He just needed a little bit of confidence. So I do like Werner as a pick, particularly if it's easy for you to get to him or, it suits your structure. But the biggest reason I would consider going for Werner is because he is differential. That is, I think, the main draw to Werner. Because if not, worrying about differential and differentiating yourself, then just go for Havertz or Mount, because they are better FPL assets. But if you're trying to chase a lead, you're trying to take a punt on a player that you think is going to really do well, then maybe Timo Werner is the one for you. But anyway, those are the 5 FPL assets I would consider from Chelsea. Havertz, in order of preference, for me personally, or order of priority, I think Havertz. I'm not fully confident putting Havertz above Mount. Havertz and Mount are much of a muchness, and it kind of depends on what you're doing. If you're being safe, you put Mount ahead. But if you're not trying to be safe, then you probably put Havertz ahead. So in that case, I guess we'll do a sensible order. Let's do a sensible order. Mason Mount, Kai Havertz, Marcus Alonso, probably Timo Werner, and then Reece James. I don't know. That's probably my... I genuinely... I mean, I like all 5. Don't get me wrong. They're all good options. But that's probably would be my order of preference based on price, based on underlying stats, based on performances, based on everything. So, even though you might say, okay, maybe you like Werner more than Alonso, there's a big difference in the price. So I think I'm kind of factoring in price as well. So there you go. Those are my favourite Chelsea assets. Those are the 5 I think you should pick from. I don't think you should go really near anyone else. Every week we get people coming into this chat or in video comments saying, "Oh, I think I'm going to go for Chalobah or someone like that," because they're obviously very much trying to save some money or cut some corners somewhere or try and be different for the sake of being different with nothing really to back it up. And it all goes horribly, horribly wrong. So I am not going to recommend a single player to you outside of those 5. I think if you can't get to those 5 players, don't even bother. Go elsewhere. Just go elsewhere. Go for someone else. And that's my genuine advice to you. If you can't get to those players, just go for someone else. Just go for someone else. Anyway, that's that. Someone in the chat says, show your team. I'm not really... I'm trying, to be honest. I mean, I'm not done. My team is, I can show you very quickly. It's no different. That's my score so far this week. My bus team is set, but, it's... There's nothing really too interesting there, to be honest. I haven't made any transfers yet. I've not chose my captain. That's it. I've not really got anything to talk about there. And honestly, a lot of these strategy streams, I speak... basically for the whole hour are just about my own team. And I do want to make sure that I am not just talking about my own team, but trying to give you guys some advice as well. I mean, my team is kind of primed to bring in a Chelsea player, really. That's what I intend to do. That's why I've been speaking about Chelsea players so much. I'll be bringing in a Chelsea player. Who it'll be, I don't know. Maybe we'll take a -4 and get 2. It's definitely something I'm thinking about and kind of wanting to do, to be honest. But we'll speak about that in tomorrow's team selection video. So anyway, let's get back to business. I wanted to talk about... I wanted to make you guys a... can I reset this and start from scratch? Don't know if I can. I want to make you guys... That's not even my team, I don't think. No, it's not. I want to make you guys a wildcard draft. Because I want to make you guys a wildcard draft with the idea of bench boosting in 36. And I know a lot of you guys will want to bench boost in 36 and you'll want a wildcard team. But also I want to make a wildcard team because I want to kind of show you what the ideal team kind of looks like right now. Because I think that's just a pretty cool thing to do. So this is my team, but we're just going to remove some players. I'm going to put in like some other players that I think will be pretty good. We'll probably mix up a little bit. Who would I go here? Probably Alonso. And then in midfield, we'd go for, we might keep Saka to be fair, but let's go for Mount and Kai Havertz. And then, actually, I probably want to bring Saka back. So let's bring in Saka back, maybe. It's kind of expensive though. I don't know, I feel like we're going way over budget here. Yeah, we're going pretty high over budget here. All right, we're going to have to cut some corners. Maybe we go for like cash here. I like the look of going for cash. And then let's put cash on the bench this game week. We can take you down to Foster. We can take Broya to maybe a Pookie because we need that bench boost ability. And maybe we go for an Eddie and Nketiah as well. I'll do a little knee jerk there, possibly. Although, if I'm honest, maybe actually it might be a little bit more sensible to go for someone like João Pedro or Dennis or someone. We don't want Wood. Well, actually, can we just go all in on the cheap forwards, and maybe just put Eddie there? I mean, who else would you go for? And I don't know how expensive that team is. Oh, it's pretty expensive. So maybe that's not so affordable. Can we make this a little bit cheaper? I wonder. Yeah, I think we can. I know how we're going to do it. We are going to... Oh, shall I do this? Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of Havertz. I'm going to put in Gordon. And I'm also going to bring in a player I like to call Timo Werner. Let's go, baby. So, he's in the wrong place. There you go. Put you on. Right, that's nice. We're getting there. So this is just basically as a consequence of looking at a lot of wildcard teams and kind of chatting to a lot of people about wildcards and bench boosts and stuff like that to try and get a good idea of what a good wildcard team would look like. We've got a super chat very quickly in the chat here from Ahmed, who says, "Would you consider selling Kane if it's the only way to get Chelsea assets and upgrade defence?" Is it really your only way? Who are you going to sell him to? Timo Werner? I guess you could sell Kane to Timo Werner and then upgrade one of your other positions. I guess technically you could do that. But there we go. Pookie costs more. Let's put. I actually kind of want to put Pookie in here. Kind of want to put this is a really expensive team though. All right, let's go back to Nketiah. So right, guys. This is what I would probably do. Something like this. Drop Robertson for someone cheaper. That could be good. Son has to go. I'm not getting rid of Son. Really? You want to get rid of Son? I don't know, guys. I mean, we could maybe get Robertson and bring in a Van Dijk. I think that works as well if we're just trying to get us cheaper. Because I am very conscious that... you guys are going to have different budgets. And I think what I was struggling with early on in the week was I was trying to make a bench boost team that I actually liked that was 100 million. And I don't really think that's possible. I think you do kind of need a budget of 103, 104 million to make a good bench boost team. Robbo to Laporte. You could do, couldn't you? His Van Dijk. His Van Dijk is pretty expensive still. So, all right, let's go for Laporte. That works to me. That works for me. And that's brought down the price even more. So this is a much more sensible price. I quite like this. You would probably, I don't know, play Matty Cash. Play Matty Cash. It's not ideal to play Matty Cash, but you probably would just go for it. You wouldn't captain him though. Let's captain Mason Mount, Money Mace, and give the vice captain to Mo Salah running down the wing. And there you go. That's a pretty good wildcard team. People say Matip, don't really like it. I think there's a possibility that he may rotate a little bit with Konate. So not hugely keen. And I am going to stick Son. I don't like... I've looked at a lot of wildcards. I've spoken to a lot of people about wildcards. I can't get behind the Sonless drafts. I just can't get behind it. So, yeah, I'm going to keep Son in this. And I'll kind of try and explain why as we go through. Because remember, after your wildcard, if you're wildcarding this week... You have 4 transfers. If you have a free hit, you have 3 transfers. So you do not have much wiggle room. You have to have a team that is pretty much set up for the rest of the season. So let's go. Let's go through the game weeks. We have got game week 34. This would be your team. looks pretty good. We've got double City defence there against Watford. That's absolutely smashing. We've got Schmeichel versus Cash. Kind of hope for a 0-0 there, but you can't have everything perfect every week. And if you're going for a bench boost and you want to have the best players at the same time, you kind of do have to make some sacrifices somewhere, and that is potentially a sacrifice that you could make. But Cash comes good. Cash comes very good, very quickly. Midfield of midfield of Salah, Son, Saka, and then if we're talking about the Chelsea doublers, Alonso, Mount, who I said are two of my favourites, and Werner takes up a forward slot, which it allows you to have, if we go for Werner instead of Havertz, what it does allow you to do, and maybe I should have mentioned this earlier on in the stream, is that it allows you to go for a cheapy midfielder, like super cheap midfielder like Gordon, who is actually a really good asset, particularly for those of you guys who are wanting to bench boost. So this is what your team would look like in game week 34. Let's move to game week 35. It would be switched around a little bit potentially. You would maybe just switch the bench up, maybe try Foster against Burnley if you fancied it. Maybe switch up the captaincy, something like that. And then you would have, again, a really nice team for game week 35, but you do have one free transfer at this point, so if you want to make a change, we are seeing now that we've got Son against Leicester, so that's kind of one of the reasons why you want to go for Son, because it's a wildcard team is not just for one game week, and I think people forget this. You have got a limited amount of transfers left this season to use. You need to make sure your whole team is set up for the rest of the season, which is only a 5 game week period, by the way, guys. So yeah, we've got Matty Cash now, fabulous game against Norwich, but it gets even better. I don't even think you need a transfer at this point, by the way, guys, if you are using this wild card. Go to the next week, and we have got, boom, so many doublers. Now, let's assume, for the sake of this video, that Laporte and Cancelo both have double game week. So Man City double in game week 36. Let's assume that, because I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. But what we can see now is our team looks okay. Our team looks pretty good, actually. We've got a good team full of doublers. We've got doublers all along the bench. And what I would do at this point, guys, is I would take Werner out because, like I was saying earlier, that Leeds away game is only a few days before the FA Cup final. So I'm wondering if Chelsea are actually going to rotate some of their players for the FA Cup final. So in that sense, Werner comes out, bring in Richarlison. So another doubler, who you would say, particularly if Everton are still in the relegation battle, then Richarlison is still going to be a player who is kind of, going to be very important. He's still going to be at full motivation. They're going to need to play him every game. It's going to be very, very good. And then potentially, depending on how much money you have in the bank, you can make a second transfer. I don't know. I'm not fully convinced by Nketiah, to be honest. So, maybe you start with Pukki in the first place, or okay, right. Let's assume we started with Pukki instead of Nketiah. So assume that player was already there. So you still have one free transfer at this point. So it's kind of up to you who you go for your second free transfer. I don't really know, but your bench would look I guess this would be your bench, right? Those are the kind of 4 worst players in that squad, and that would be a bench boost. Foster against Crystal Palace and Everton, Pukki against West Ham and Leicester, Gordon against Leicester and Watford, and João Pedro against Crystal Palace and Everton. You've still got one free transfer to use this game week if you want to, so you can switch something else up. You can use that fairly reactionarily if you fancy it. Salah I like for a captain this game week. I don't think you can go wrong there, really. Son, and this is why I was coming back to Son, Liverpool away and Arsenal at home. It sounds like a terrible pair of fixtures on the face of it, but the counter-attacking style of Son is almost perfectly set up for these games. It's almost perfect for these. So, like I always say, the best players score against anyone. This matchup in particular is a good matchup for Son. So, even though they're not the best double game week fixtures, it's still a very good double game week for Son, and I quite like it. So, there we go. We've got a beautiful game week 36 double game week bench boost team next game week. Now, remember, guys, Salah and Alexander-Arnold will play against Southampton this game week. I know it doesn't say that on the website right now, but it will. They will change it. They will update it soon, and it will say that Liverpool versus Southampton goes into the midweek slot in game week 37, giving them a fixture in 37. They will play in 37, trust me. But we've still got a few doublers. We have still, at this point, got a few dibbly-dobbly doublers, which is quite nice. which is quite nice. And we still, and you know, assuming you didn't make that second transfer last game week, you could even maybe make another transfer. You can make 2 this week if you want to. You can make 1 or 2, kind of up to you. You know, maybe you fancy taking like, I don't know, like a Pookie up to a Watkins or something like that. You could even do that a few games earlier. You know, you could take a Mount to a Coutinho or someone if you just want the extra fixtures and you're worried about Mount's minutes by this point. Go for Coutinho there maybe. This is by this point it's very much going to depend on who's in the relegation battle, who's still got stuff to play for. A Chelsea miles ahead of, you know, Spurs, Arsenal, Manchester United, and are just nailed on to finish top 3 now. That's going to be a factor as well. And you're going to have to kind of be a little bit more reactionary at this point. But again, your team will look something like this. Maybe we go for a Richarlison captain for the lols just because he has a double game week. Then that's how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double game week players. And honestly, in 37, I think 5 double game week players is enough. You could use 1 more transfer and get a 6th if you really want to, but I think 5 is enough, and even 4 is probably enough if you want to not go that far. And then final game week of the season, let's bring Saka back in. We'll get rid of Coutinho, and you'll finish off the season something like this. I mean, Son against Norwich. Who says no? Playing with the freedom of only a relegated team could play with. It's we don't really like that either. So maybe, you know, final game week we take you out. We maybe go for a Spurs defender potentially here, if you want to, Emerson Royale, or you know maybe, you know, because we want to focus on game week 38. You definitely want to focus on players who have things to play for. You know, you want to go for European scrappers. You want to go for relegation scrappers in game week 30. In game week 38, those are the players you want to pick, because other players could potentially be rotated or not play at full motivation, which is just not good. So yeah, an Emerson Royale might work quite well there, for example. And maybe that allows you to do a second upgrade and, I don't know, go Richarlison to a forward, you know, if you can think of a forward that you want. Apparently we've saved a load of money somewhere down the line, so right, screw it, Richarlison out, Kane in, let's go, baby. Oh, actually, we can't even afford Kane. All right. I don't know who would do well in the final game of the season. Maybe bring Werner back. I don't know. I'm just spitballing at this point. You know, by this point, the butterfly effect of FPL would have taken full course, and you can't really plan this far ahead. You know, you can have ideas, and I certainly have ideas of what my team's going to look like in game week 37, 38. But I know, you know, if we're being real, I have ideas, but what's actually going to happen is I'm going to be reactionary depending on the setup of the Premier League right now. So there you go, guys. That is a wildcard team with a bench boost plan, which is something I failed to do on Monday, which I can only apologise to you guys for, but I've done it. There you go. And we've got loads of doublers. We've got a full team of doublers in 36. You get 5 doublers in 37. Amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. We've got a super chat from Gabriel Bond. Or Gabriel Bond, depending on what area of the world he's from. Maybe America, since it's in dollars. Weghorst and Doherty to Nketiah and Alonso, or Kane and Doherty to Werner and Trent. Interesting. I feel naked without Spurs, but it frees up so much money. Bench boosting in 36. If you're looking to free up money, then yeah, maybe you can take out Kane. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'd feel naked without Trent, and I'd feel naked without a degree of Chelsea cover as well. So I am leaning towards the Werner and Trent move out of those 3 that you mentioned. It's a shame that you have to lose Kane, but you know, you get Werner out of it for his double game week, and you get Trent Alexander-Arnold, who is just a player who's arguably one of those must-have players in FPL, right? And you'll have him. So that's going to be pretty good. That's going to be pretty good for you. So yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with that last option. So there we go. What else? We got a few minutes left. Free hit draft. I'll do a free hit draft for game week 36 and for game week 37. I'm not gonna make one now. If people are free hitting this game week, fair enough. I don't really think it's a good game week to free hit, so I don't want to push people towards free hitting in 34, to be honest. but obviously everyone's team is different. So, but yeah, maybe we'll do a free hit draft in Game Week 36 for Game Week 36 and in Game Week 37 for Game Week 37, if that's something you guys are interested in. Thomas in the super chat says, I have a big pickle this week. Oh, it's never good to have a big pickle, mate. I want Mount in for Kulu, but don't have the money. I could get him if I switched James for Alonso for a -4. Could do Son to Havertz. I don't really like it, if I'm honest, mate. I don't really like it. Yeah, that is a big pickle. Kulusevski, Kulusevski, Saka, Coutinho, Rafinha. Those are the kind of players you want to be switching to a Chelsea midfielder for, ideally. I would say Son to Havertz. I don't love it. It's really difficult. It may be that you just can't do it. I mean, switching James for Alonso for a -4 feels really sideways. But out of the options that you've given me there, Thomas, I think that would be the one I'd lean towards, because you do improve your team objectively. You know, it could go wrong. Don't get me wrong. But anything can. There's going to be some huge swings, and strange things happen in FPL all the time. You kind of have to accept that and kind of roll with the punches, to be honest. There's also an argument to say, just don't worry about it. Just do nothing. That's often something that I do when in doubt. I'm not convinced by any routes to get a certain player. I just don't get the player. If there's a player you desperately want and you want to captain them, like if you really want to captain Mount or Havertz or whoever this game week, then, you know, move the earth for them. It's worth moving the earth for a captain. But if you're not convinced, you're not going to captain them anyway, there's a debate to be had that says do nothing. I mean, you never know. Mason Mount could get rotated one of these games and, you know, you're very glad that you didn't do anything. You know, Reece James could absolutely go off. You're glad that you didn't downgrade him to Alonso. These things happen all the time. Nick Giordano says, sorry if already mentioned, thoughts on Nketiah. I don't know. He played well. He did the job that was required of him. But Lacazette is back in the squad. Lacazette is first choice. Has Nketiah done enough to displace Lacazette? Is a big question. I would say probably not. I definitely wouldn't say that Nketiah after one game is now nailed on. Well, 2 games. He played 2 games technically. I wouldn't say that he's now nailed on or anything. And I think maybe the hype around Nketiah is a little bit knee-jerk, if I'm honest. I'm not fully convinced by him. Would be my answer there, I guess. So yeah, sorry if that's not the answer you are hoping for, but there we go. But there we go, guys. Right, I am going to wrap things up now. I think we've covered pretty much everything I wanted to talk about today, to be honest, and I hope we've covered it quite well as well. I really do hope this video has been, or /stream if you're watching it live. I really hope this has been useful for you. It's definitely been useful for me, kind of looking at looking at wildcard teams and looking at how different people are bench boosting, because it's not something that I looked at enough. And like I say, I apologise for doing a subpar job on the video on Monday, and I hope that I have now corrected that. And you know, those of you who are wildcarding with the intention of bench boosting, hopefully I've given you some good stuff to be thinking about. Hopefully we've covered the Chelsea stuff as well. I've been absolutely loving doing my Chelsea research, and you probably don't want to hear this, but I'm nowhere near choosing which Chelsea players I'm going to go for. You know, I've got some ideas. I've got some rough ideas. I've narrowed it down, which is helpful. But I don't know for sure which Chelsea players I'm going to bring in and who I'm going to take out, which is not what you want to hear. But yeah, I will try and cover what I'm most likely to do in tomorrow's team selection video, although I'm very aware I'm running out of time. Maybe I'll pick the ear of some people at Fantasy Football Fest tomorrow and see what they think about some of the moves I'm thinking about. But there you go, guys. Please do like the video before you disappear. It really does help out the channel a lot, and I massively appreciate those of you guys who do like the video. Someone in this chat says there's only 20 likes live. I mean, whilst we're live, there's only 20 likes. Guys, we can do better than that. Come on. There's a lot of you guys watching and, you know, like the video. Love that stuff. But aside from that, guys, yeah, like, subscribe. You'll see my team selection video tomorrow. There'll be no more videos aside from that this game week. That'll be it. And there might be a deadline stream, there might not be. It depends how hungover I am on Saturday morning, because I am going to Fantasy Football Fest. Hooray! Hopefully I'll see a few of you guys there as well. And see you guys on Twitter for the reaction to the Cornet nonsense that is inevitably happening tonight. Aside from that, guys, thank you so much for watching. You guys are absolute legends, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.